try to do this the opposite way.
High fly ball, deep left field. Oh, 27 does it again.
God, Fernando Tatis Jr. with a 2-run shot has the Padres on the board. Ball and 2 strikes to Shohei here. Oh,
Got it, got it, got it! 33!
Oh, wow. Where did that one go? That's his 11th.
Driven out to deep center field. Going back, Springer, turning, looking, see ya! Oh, what a shot by Judge! The Yankees lead 1-0.
Hey everybody, welcome back to episode number 33 of the Free Baseball Podcast presented by the athleteshub.org. I have finally got it correct. I'm not going to mess it up anymore. I am Davis Bird. I'm your host, joined by my co-host, Jay Crumpler, as always. No hot weeks this week, but we got a lot of baseball to talk about. Playoff baseball, Yankee slander. Oh, it's a Yankee slander pod. Everyone's going to love that.
Go.
We're trying to get our boss Devin to come join so we can trash him and potentially get fired, and our old pal Isaiah to join us. See if they will. If they don't, they're cowardly men who refuse to accept the Yankees are a stinky baseball team.
They're definitely going to be just like in the comments, too scared to come on here and face their fears of getting pooped on.
Absolutely. But before we get into our Yankee slander-filled podcast, couple of news around the baseball sphere. New managers for a couple non-playoff making teams. Bruce Bochy came out of retirement to become the new manager of the Texas Rangers. Talk to me about this, Mr. Giants fan.
Bro, I was so confused when I saw that. I thought my
weird.
phone was broken. This literally Tony La Russa style comeback. I mean, La Russa was retired way longer than Bochy ever was, because like La Russa made the Hall of Fame and then came back. It's still one of the craziest things of all time, but nonetheless, Bruce Bochy, a legendary manager in the eyes of Giants fans, maybe not Padres fans. That's where he was before he managed San Francisco to 3 World Series titles in 5 years. He is such a great manager. He's pretty old school, but they've got to see something in him that they think he's going to be able to transfer to this current age of baseball. He must be missing out a lot. The link he has with the Rangers is that the Rangers' new GM, Chris Young, one of the tallest players ever to play baseball, is the GM of the Rangers now, and he was managed by Bochy when Bochy was a manager of the Padres. But nonetheless, I think this is pretty crazy because Bochy is such a great manager, and I thought he was done because when he retired with the Giants, it seemed somewhat premature, like it seemed like the Giants were still really good. Like he seemed like he still had some life left in him. He's not super old or anything. So I wonder what the Rangers are offering him to get him to come back. It's probably a big chunk of change.
Yeah, presumably it's an unbelievable amount of money. He will actually become the 20th manager, full-time manager, in Texas Rangers history, which doesn't really seem like that much. But yeah, so good news there for the Rangers front, and good news there for probably Bruce Bochy's bank account.
Mm-hmm.
Another manager hire. This time it's the St. Louis Cardinals bench coach, Skip Shoemaker. He's going to become the new manager of the Miami Marlins. Obviously, retirement there previously from Don Mattingly, opening up that role for some reason. I just couldn't remember Don Mattingly. Couldn't get that name off the tip of my tongue. Skip Shoemaker filling some pretty big shoes from Don Mattingly. And Marlins, Marlins fans, please don't freak out when he hits Jazz against a lefty.
No. He won't be doing that. Shoemaker's got to have Jazz's back. That's probably the main reason they hired him. They were just like, all right, well, like the rest of the team hates Jazz, but we need you to make them like him. So like, can you do that? And he was like, oh yeah, probably. But yeah, I remember Skip Shoemaker during his playing days. This is like I mean, we already have like Gabe Kapler and Rocco Baldelli, guys like that I remember playing. Like even Kevin Cash, I remember playing when I was really little. But like Skip Shoemaker just seems like so recent. I just remember him because he's got such a weird name. And I was somewhat of a Cardinals fan back in the day because I just loved Albert Pujols so much. So when they were winning the World Series, I was watching a lot of Skip Shoemaker. I've got his FanGraphs pulled up. His best full season, which is like more than 90 games, was 2008, 2009. 2008, he had 1.8 F-WAR. He batted .302 with 8 dingers and 8 steals, and he struck out just 10% of the time. 106 WRC plus. He was just a weak bat. He had a pretty solid glove. Actually, never mind. FanGraphs says otherwise. So he's a pretty Met player, but he seems so intense. Yeah, he was a baseball player. He just seems so intense as the bench coach over there in St. Louis. I don't know if you saw him during the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he got ejected several times this year for arguing balls and strikes. I actually saw a clip looking at this for like research that he got ejected very specifically from a Marlins game for arguing balls and strikes.
They saw that and they were like, "We need that in our dugout."
Yeah, we get that guy. Another funny bit of news. Sandy Alcantara was streaming on Twitch. And someone asked him in chat like what they thought of Skip Shoemaker, and he said pretty good, and that was it.
Oh yeah, because he was a Cardinal before.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe that's the link. They were just like, hey, like we got this guy Sandy, we got this guy Jazz. Yeah, I mean it should be pretty interesting. These guys like former ball players that are still relatively young. I mean, he was 35 in 2015. It's 7 years, so he's like 42 now. Guys that are relatively young like that, it's more for like the analytics play. They want a guy that's going to listen to the front office. So that's probably what this is. So it'll be interesting. He probably doesn't have a lot of a say right off the bat, but like we've seen with Baldelli and Cash and Kapler, they can turn into really good managers if they can sort of combine their feel for having been a baseball player with the directions of the front office.
Yeah, I think this was still like, pretty good hire. It's just going to be so hard to fill shoes, left by another Hall of Fame manager, Don Mattingly. I believe this leaves one major opening for manager left in the Chicago White Sox. So we'll see what they do there in the coming weeks. I think all signs are kind of pointing at this point towards Joe Espada, but we'll see. Hopefully they hire a bum again, like Tony La Russa. That'd be pretty cool. So moving on,
dig up somebody from a grave or something. That would be pretty cool. I don't know. For some reason, I can't think of any dead man. He is not dead.
His baseball career might as well.
There's like Tommy Lasorda. We want you to manage our team. Yeah, and they're like, Jerry Reinsdorf, he's dead. Perfect. Nah, man. Perfect.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Go get him. Just go get him. Just any random dude. Okay. Casey Stengel.
Yeah, no, exactly. No,
Connie Mack.
There's so many good managers out there. People are just not tapping into the right graveyard.
Maybe this whole analytics spiel, garbage. Maybe Tony La Russa was too young. Go get somebody old. Somebody.
He was too hip. They need somebody less hip than Tony La Russa.
I agree. So moving on to teams that actually made the playoffs.
Yep.
Let's wrap up the division series. Very unfortunately, one of our pick for the AL, the Guardians, very unfortunately lost out to the New York Yankees in 5, which sucks, but it happens. Just the offense just wasn't there, and the Yankees just kind of pulled it out on them. Guardians, though, have to call this season a complete and total success. Anyway, I mean, you obviously didn't win the World Series, but everyone kind of expected them to be like a cellar dweller in the AL Central, and they won it, and then pushed the Yankees to the brink. So congratulations, Guardians. Yankees, yeah, well, you got to, but that's for later.
Yeah, it was definitely an unfortunate turn of events to see the Yankees come away with that one, because I think both of us had the Guardians on top of our list, maybe Philly second, but Guardians were definitely the team that we were rooting super hard for. Last time when we recorded, I think right after Josh Naylor did his Rock the Baby. So we like just missed having that live. That was sick. That was awesome. But then it sucked because the Yankees fans just totally adopted that and were just doing it back at him the whole time. So it was definitely an unfortunate turn of events. I really wish they had pulled it out. There is something to say about how the one of the games got postponed, right? So they moved it ahead a game a day, and then that sort of let the Yankees rest up their bullpen, which has been sort of taxed throughout the whole entire season. So that was definitely something that may have played a part in it. And nonetheless, you know, the winner deserved to win, but it was definitely an interesting series. I wish it had turned out differently, but we did get some history out of it, as Wandy Peralta, lefty reliever for the Yankees, definitely benefited from that day off because he became the first pitcher to ever appear in all 5 games of a division series, which is somehow that's pretty surprising. I would have figured that would have happened at some point. I remember Brandon Morrow for the Dodgers in like 20 whatever was throwing every single game, and now his arm is broken. But yeah, Wandy Peralta will have his name in the record books for eternity.
Shout out to Wandy Peralta. Speaking of the Yankees, let's go ahead and just jump straight into the championship series review with the Yankees. Yeah, they got swept. They got swept by a team that was vastly superior to them. Hang the banner in the rafters. Everyone was memeing on them too. Would have won if the roof was closed. Stupidest thing that Aaron Boone could have ever said.
Did he really say that? Did he actually?
Yes, he really said that.
That's insane. That's so
unbelievable.
Goofy. It just like to blame it on something like that rather than being like, I mean, as like a manager, you got to be like, take responsibility. Like, even if you blame it on yourself for making a stupid move, which I definitely think he had some stupid moves, especially earlier in the postseason, just with some of the relievers he decided to go with. But I mean, that, like I said, that bullpen's pretty depleted, but nonetheless, that is such a goofy thing to blame it on. Like, you got to be like, nah, we just had a bad day and we're going to come back strong. So, I mean, you could definitely blame a little bit on that, but yeah, that stuff is so funny. The banner of just like, would have won if the roof was closed 2022. Like, let's go.
Just dumb. Like, yeah, it's super stupid. Yeah. Aaron Boone said that. He said it without saying it, but for game 2, he literally said, like, let me find it. I think the roof open kind of killed us. Like, you know, he like complaining about a home run. Yeah, that's what really got you, bud. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, it was Manfred who chose that, so I can't blame Boone for like disagreeing with Manfred, but it's definitely something goofy to blame it on. But that offense was just horrible the entire series. I don't know how you can blame it on the air.
Their offense isn't good in general.
Yes, it's literally, and with Aaron Judge, you know, sort of sucking throughout the whole postseason, it was literally just Harrison Bader who wasn't there the whole season.
Stanton was fine. I mean, like, Stanton was fine in the playoffs, but that lineup provided almost nothing. Their pitching was fine. Their pitching is usually what gets blown up, and their lineup this time was what really kept them out of it. And the Astros, I mean, it was very clear, I think, going into this series for everyone that's not a Yankees fan, that the Astros were in fact the team that was vastly superior in this one. Like, it wasn't close. And in almost all of the matchups where the Astros have played the Yankees, it's not close. Like, the Astros are just a better team. They're a better baseball team. They're better constructed, top to bottom, than the New York Yankees. And this is potentially really, really bad for the Yankees now. Obviously, they have high expectations, but is really anything going to happen? Like, Brian Cashman put this team together. He'll get another year in charge. They'll probably do nothing. If Aaron Judge doesn't resign, I mean, like, this team is not a playoff team. They traded away, like, pieces for players that were subpar. I mean, like, Donaldson for Urshela looks awful in hindsight. Everyone's been circulating the clip, absolutely trashing him for it, and rightfully so, where Cashman before the season started said, yo, we love Gio, but he's not Josh Donaldson. And then Josh Donaldson was one of the literal worst hitters in the second half of the season, and one of like a net negative to the point where he was almost a free out every time he came up. the postseason. Yeah, congratulations. I wish we could play the clip of David Ortiz saying the Yankees lose, but
yeah, I thought about downloading that. I also saw there's that clip of Pedro being like, "Who's your daddy?" With his lisp. Pedro has such a big lisp too, so it's really funny. Pedro. Yeah, he's great. But yeah, it's definitely the Yankees. They were great for a long time, but that time has not been any time recently. No. Just making the postseason a lot doesn't really mean anything. We see that with the Dodgers. They have a goofy team that is really good during the regular season and not in the postseason. That seems to be the case for the Yankees now. But it's just like I don't know if it's roster construction or just like this is how normal baseball is, and the fans of the Yankees and baseball as a whole has come to sort of have too high expectations of the Yankees, which is probably the case. But it's been 22 years since they went back to back, and they've won one championship in that time. That's a long time. You know how many championships the Giants have won in that time? A lot more. You know how many championships the Braves have won in that time? The same amount. The freaking Royals have won as many World Series as the Yankees have in the last 20 years. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it's roster construction. I saw a tweet where they spent more money on like Hicks, Chapman, and Donaldson than Harper and Machado were paid this year, which obviously everybody would rather have Harper and Machado, but they sort of put themselves out of the running in those free agencies because they wanted to go with different people. So I don't know. I really can't tell if it's a roster construction thing or if it's just like things not coming together, but they did have a really good first half and they've just sort of fallen off throughout the second half in the postseason.
Yeah. I know the tweet you're talking about, and it was those three players cost $1 million, like $1 million less than what it would have cost for them to have Harper and Machado. So, a front runner, NLCS MVP, which we'll get to, and front runner, at least top three conversation for NL MVP. You could have had those two guys on the Yankees, and they got neither of them. They're bad. Now they're facing down the barrel of Aaron Judge potentially walking away. And honestly, if I were him, I would. I really think I would. I think I would get out of town. Yankees going with the absolute stupidest move too, down 0-3, chasing the series, showing there's reports that they showed them the clips or whatever, with like a hype package trying to rally the troops of the Red Sox overcoming a 3-0 deficit.
That's so funny. And then they FaceTimed Big Papi too, apparently.
Yeah, apparently they FaceTimed Big Papi, and like really, like Big Papi should have been like, "Why are you even calling me? I hope you guys lose."
He just goes, "Fuck the Yankees." Oof, I'm not supposed to say that.
Too late.
Beep beep.
Too late. Already capped it in there. Like, Yankees fans who were crying out wanting Houston before the series, I mean, you got them, and they got you. So
they always get them.
Always get them. It's over. So some cool news. Astros, second longest win streak to begin a postseason. Now they are trailing the 2014 Kansas City Royals, the GOAT, who had 8 games. But congratulations, Astros. ALCS MVP was awarded to rookie sensation Jeremy Pena. Very weird when Carlos Correa was having to talk to him. And he's like, "Oh, I wanted ALCS MVP. We didn't need you, man. See you later, Carlos." Houston dead favorites. They have to be in the World Series, but
that team is just so well built.
Yes,
we'll get into them. We'll get into them a little bit more in the World Series preview. But yeah, they were super dominant in the championship series. Crazy that a rookie is the ALCS MVP, especially on a team that features like Yordan Alvarez, Bregman, and like the starters they got like Fromber and Justin Verlander. But they really came through. I think the most underrated part about that team is the bullpen. But like I said, we'll break down the team a little bit more. The other teams that have won 7 games to start a postseason are the 1976 Cincinnati Reds, the 2007 Colorado Rockies, our team, and the 2020 Atlanta Braves, the only team with more wins to start a postseason was the 2014 Kansas City Royals. They won 8 games. So they went as far as the Astros have gone and then won the first game of the World Series. Actually, was that the year that they won the wild card game and then they didn't win the World Series? Because 2014, if you remember, that's when the Giants won. So maybe that's what we're going to get with the Astros. I'm glad that the Astros beat the Yankees, but I do not want them to win. I mean, we'll get there. We'll get there.
Absolutely. So moving on to the most bonkers NLCS
oh my God.
in a while. The other team, I talked about this at like the start of our playoff preview. The Phillies are dangerous. That offense, the rest of their team, pitching fine, bullpen middling, pretty decent, not anything super special. Their offense super explosive, and they really showed that, and they just absolutely clobbered the Padres.
Mm-hmm.
Just completely blew them out of the water in some of those games with just dinger after dinger after dinger. Go ahead and put all of your stupid misinformed takes about Bryce Harper never being clutch and never being good and being consistently overrated. He's him. Like, Bryce Harper is him. NLCS MVP, outstanding series against the Padres. Bryce Harper, man. He's unreal. And honestly, if they win the World Series for whatever reason, they overcome the odds, win the World Series, they might as well go ahead and cast him in bronze and place him outside Citizens Bank. Because he'd be a legend for that city.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, home run in the clinching game. Celebration, walking around the bases. One of the coldest cellies of any home run I've ever seen. I don't know about you, but yeah, like, this was a great series. And me, I'm on the Phillies train, man. I've been on them since the start of the playoffs. Phillies, Guardians, they're doing this for Cleveland. Cleveland didn't die for nothing. They're embedded deep within the soul of the Philadelphia Phillies, who are going to win the World Series.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm all for it. I love this Phillies team. It's been such a fun series to watch. And it was weird rooting kind of against the Padres in this series for me. But this Phillies team's just so fun. It's so hard for me to pull against them.
They're just so exciting. They seem to always come through when they need to with the big home run. But it's crazy to me. Like, I don't think until maybe the second game or the third game of the series did I actually consider that the Phillies would be going to the World Series. There were no point in the off season all the way through. My bold prediction at the beginning of the season in one of the articles we did was that Hoskins and Bohm would combine for like 50 home runs or something, and Nola and Wheeler would finish like top 10 in NL Cy Young, and the Phillies would miss the postseason. They did not miss the postseason, that's for sure. But I was doubting them the whole way, and they've really proven me wrong. But no matter how great that Harper home run is, I think we got something even greater produced by that series, and that was that goofy ass rap that those Padres fans made. That was the funniest thing I've seen in so long. Phillies going down to yellow and brown. That's what's in.
Wasn't it like in Padres town or something like that?
Yeah. Let's go Goose.
I hated it.
It's so funny. Yeah, they brought those guys on to John Boy too. It's so bad. It's so bad, but it's so funny. Yeah, it's I definitely love that. As
San Diego Padres killed by cringe.
Yeah, it was so cringe. It was so bad.
I love
just
that.
all over the dancing, the lack of background music, the guys in the back backing them up. It was awful. Even the lyrics were terribly written, but it was really funny, that's for sure. But beside that, on the baseball side, it was a super fun series to watch. I obviously didn't get to watch every single second, but whenever I tuned in, it was just like, all right, Padres are up. Like, who's about to hit a home run for the Phillies to take the lead? It was just like, without a doubt, if the Phillies were down, they were going to come back, and it was so sick. Rhys Hoskins had a few huge home runs in that series. Kyle Schwarber went deep, and even with Nick Castellanos lacking a bat, like, the rest of the offense just continues to come through. And yeah, like you said, Harper is just insane. That home run is so legendary, and that's going to be maybe the defining moment of his career if he doesn't do anything crazier for the rest of his career. Like, right now, that might be the defining moment of his career, and that's super cool to like send them to the World Series like that. But the rest of that team really came through. Like they just have a couple of aces in the rotation and the bullpen, which has been a sore spot for them for countless number of years, is finally a strong suit. Even with David Robertson still sort of struggling, they've got Sir Anthony. Jose Alvarado came through, like I said, as the number 2 guy in that bullpen. And somehow like the starters there have actually been good out of the bullpen. Like Eflin and Kyle Gibson have not been too bad. They haven't had to pitch too much, but still.
Right. I believe they've also brought Ranger out of the bullpen once in that series.
Yeah, he closed out a game, and I didn't know that. I think he closed out the clincher, which
I believe so.
David Robertson struggled, and they were just like, all right, Rangers coming in. Yeah, he's gonna have to get his stuff together if they're gonna have a chance against the Astros, because that Astros bullpen is crazy. But yeah, the Phillies really came through, and the Padres were just, I mean, similar to the Yankees, the offense just was not there. Like Juan Soto and Manny did their thing, but the rest of the offense just wasn't there, and the pitching wasn't able to make up for that.
Yeah, not exactly ideal, but I mean, the Phillies, you talked about like not really registering that they were going to be in the World Series. Honestly, after win number 2, it was sunk in my mind. I was like,
there's Game 3.
Yeah, I was like, there's absolutely no way the Phillies don't make the World Series. And it's weird. I know you're not a football guy, but it feels a lot like the Eagles team that won the Super Bowl. They just have a bunch of guys that, big, like relatively big personalities. Castellanos, right? He's not the biggest personality, but he's not a quiet one either. Kyle Schwarber, he's been pretty vocal. Bryce Harper, I mean, like Bryce Harper's, he's obviously, we talked about him. But the team's super fun and it's super gritty. And Phillies, like when Philly sports are good, like those fans are wild. Like they're the wildest probably in America. And it's just crazy to see. And it really feels like this is the underdog. Like that was the bit they wrote on the entire time they were making their way to Super Bowl, because their starting quarterback got hurt, Carson Wentz at the time, and they had a backup quarterback leading the way. And they embraced the underdog mentality, and that's kind of what it felt like against the Padres, even though their records are pretty identical. And now they're facing the Astros, who, as we'll get to now with our preview, have the second largest win disparity between World Series opponents ever. The Phillies have 87 wins and the Astros had 106. Like the Astros are a buzzsaw, and they did like the wildest thing about the Astros was they swept the Yankees and they barely got out of third gear. I mean, like Altuve didn't do anything. Yordan didn't really do anything. Like this Astros team is a buzzsaw. But it really feels like if the ball's rolling for Philly, like you cannot expect to stop them for me. So I'm still all over the Phillies train, even if it's not just because like nobody wants the Astros to win. I think just about everybody that's not an NL East fan. And even then, I think some of them would just get a large kick out of seeing the Astros lose three World Series appearances. Three straight
NL East teams.
Yeah, three of their three of their World Series appearances consecutively to different NL East teams. I know I would enjoy that.
Yeah, but, I don't. There's not too many Astros fans out there that are not living in Texas. But I'm prepared for this World Series. I got the Phillies jacket on and the Astros hat, so merch wise, I'm prepared. But you mentioned that this is the second largest win disparity between World Series opponents in the history of baseball. I say it's the most. The largest previously was in 1906 between the 116 win Chicago Cubs and the 93 win Chicago White Sox. That's not even real baseball. It's like Babe Ruth era or before Babe Ruth. That's not even real baseball.
Right.
Yeah. So this is the largest disparity in my mind, in my book, because they weren't even integrated back then. That's not real baseball. Nonetheless, beside the point, it's crazy because you just have a powerhouse, like you said, a buzzsaw in the Astros versus an underdog team. But I think that 87 wins is not really reflective of what the Phillies actually are, because they made so many midseason additions, who haven't really come through massively in the postseason so far, but I think they're going to be there. I mentioned Brandon Marsh in our last episode, and he's they really needed at least anybody that could frickin' field a ball in the outfield, with like Castellanos and Schwarber, and like Harper's got to play DH all the time because of his arm. But nonetheless, like Marsh is a really good fielder, even if his bat is a wet noodle. He looks sick too. He looks like a really fun guy. They got Edmundo Sosa, who can play a pretty solid shortstop. And then you can't forget that they picked up David Robertson as well. And I think this is just a team that, they improved so much at the deadline that it's sort of underrated that 87 wins is not really what they actually were. They also came off to a slow start, and can't forget to mention Noah Syndergaard. So they do have, other guys that haven't taken center stage that might get a big chance to do that in the playoffs or in the World Series. So we're going to see that. I think it's going to be really exciting to root for the Phillies for sure. I'm really pumped. I mean, just what they've shown so far, I'm just like excited to see the next thing, because they're so exciting and they're so pumped all the time. But yeah, I mean, not much else to say in that department. Should we start talking about, predictions somewhat? Who do you think is going to win?
Oh,
Phillies. Who do you want to win? Well, we know Phillies, who wants to win, but who do you think is going to win?
I want the Phillies to win. The Phillies are going to win in 6 games.
All right. That's fair. That's very, very fair. I think just with like the momentum that's possible.
The Phillies. All right. So our bold predictions, what we're going to cover, who wins, how many games, who do we think the MVP is, any bold predictions, and who's going to be the most important player for each team. So I'll let you go ahead and start following up after I've already said who I think is going to win and how many games. So what's your thoughts?
I mean, as much as I want the Phillies to win, the Astros are just so good, and I've doubted the Phillies all year, and I don't think that's going to stop now. Like there's only so much like heart and dog can get you in baseball that I think the Astros are just too much of a well-rounded team that you're going to start to see the flaws of the Phillies show up. That's probably going to be mostly on the defensive side, probably a little bit in the bullpen. So I think the Astros are going to pull through just because they're just so good in every facet of the game. And I don't know. I also think 6 games. I don't think we're going to go a full 7. That would be exciting, but I think the Astros are just too good that they're just going to be able to handle it pretty easily. Okay. Unfortunately.
Okay, so who do you think is going to be the MVP if you think the Astros are going to win?
MVP. I don't know. I feel like it's definitely not going Jeremy Pena again, but and I think it's too easy to pick Yordan. Honestly, one of the most underrated players in baseball for the last couple of years has been Kyle Tucker. And he had another really good season this year. He always underperforms his StatCast metrics. So like he hits the ball hard. He's a pretty good fielder out there. I think if he just has like a few home runs and comes through in the clutch, makes up for any lack of pop from Bregman or Alvarez or Altuve, I think Tucker can really show everybody what he's made of on a big stage. So I think I'd go with Kyle Tucker.
Okay. So, I mean, I obviously chose the flip side of the coin with the Phillies. And I really think it's going to be Harper. I honestly don't know if I can bet against Bryce Harper. He just straight out dogged the Padres. Mm-hmm. And realistically, I mean, the Astros bullpen so well, but I think it's going to have to be one of the big bats if it's going to be Philly. So if it's not going to be Harper, it's going to have to be another one like Schwarber or Castellanos. But for me, I'm going to take the easy pick, and I think it's going to be Bryce Harper. It's going to hit a couple home runs this series, and it's going to end up coming up with a couple big hits at big times. The Phillies are going to shock the world.
Solid. Bold predictions. You got one?
Yeah, I think there's going to be several games. I think it's going to be 6 games. I think the games that the Astros are going to end up winning, if it's 6 games and they win 2 games, the Phillies will have to score less than like 3 runs. I think they'll have to be completely and totally shut down. And I could see one starter going super deep in this game. And I really think it's going to be like Framber. It's going to be one starter is going to have like an amazing out of nowhere start. That's going to go like 8 innings. And it's going to be either Framber or it's going to be Noah Syndergaard.
Noah Syndergaard. Nice.
Yeah. Syndergaard was really good against Padres. He was really good.
Yeah. My bold prediction is that the Astros are going to come from behind in the series. I think the Phillies are riding super high right now, that they pull off a couple wins, and then the Astros bear down and sort of turn things around the rest of the way, because it's sort of similar to the full major league season, where it's like a team can get off to a hot start, and then once things start to regress, you get the marathon of the season. I think you see that in a full series like this, and like either the Phillies win 2 of the first 3 games, or they win both of the first 2, and then the Astros just roll. But it'll be interesting. I think there's a chance for that, because you'll just get to see the completeness of the Houston Astros shine through in a full 7-game series, which we haven't even seen yet. They haven't played more than the minimum in every series so far. So I think once they face some adversity, they'll turn it on to max and, just completely shut down the Phillies.
Yeah, I think it could go that way. And I really think the Phillies winning is going to have to be like as a result of riding momentum, just because they've been on this crazy high. They're going to have to continue these games. And that's why I said, like, the games that they'll end up losing are going to have to be low scoring ones all around. I don't think there's going to be many games like this series that's going to be like one team gets completely stomped. I think it's going to be a bunch of games either in the realm of like 2-3, and those will be games the Astros win, or it'll be games like in the bonkers Padres Phillies in LCS, where it's like, oh, they beat them 6-10, 8-10, 12-9. Like, it'll be something weird like that. The Phillies are going to win games by like lots of runs, but their starters are going to end up being good. It's going to be what I'm going to say. Their starters will be fine. Bullpen will get blown up because it's the Phillies. But yeah, those are my bold predictions. Who do you think is going to be the most important player for each team?
Let's go one by one. So we'll do one each for the Astros and then switch back to the Phillies. I think the most important player for the Astros, I sort of want to pick a pitcher. We saw Justin Verlander sort of screw up earlier in the offseason or in the postseason. He had, a big blow up. The Astros, obviously, as they've been undefeated, were able to overcome that. But I think it's important that he continues his incredible season so far. Fromber is one of the most consistent pitchers, and Christian Javier and Lance McCullers are both very solid, especially in the postseason. But I think Verlander is really going to have to be an ace and sort of come through in 2 of the games if they're going to want to show them who's boss, because I don't think they're going to be able to shut down the Phillies offense in the entirety of the series. That offense is just too lethal. So I think if Verlander can go out there and just throw 6 or 7 1-run or shutout innings, then they're going to have a really good chance. So I think it's really important that they get him at his best. And he's probably going to push really hard, because he seems to be a very motivated baseball player.
Yeah, I agree with you on Justin Verlander, but I still think the biggest need for the Astros to overcome the Phillies in a series like this, since I said the games they'll win are going to be the low scoring ones, the games that they're going to have to try to beat the Phillies in my opinion, that will be the tough tests, are going to be the shootouts. Because of that, I think it's going to be their biggest bet, which is Yordan Alvarez. Alvarez was basically not really a factor against the Yankees, and I think for better or for worse, he might end up being the most important player, because he just never gets it going, and they're going to be lacking a little bit of that power surge, or he's going to find it again, and he's going to be like a guy that, the Phillies are either going to throw to, and he's going to just kill them, or they're going to have to completely pitch around the entire series. So I think it's going to be Yordan. He's the biggest, scariest bat there. Altuve always good, even though he was not really a factor against the Yankees. But Yordan's that big, big power threat. I think it's going to be him for the Astros.
Mm-hmm. Pretty solid points. I think for the Phillies, the most important player, as much as I want to say Bryson Stott or somebody, underrated, Stott was actually really solid in the championship series. He just is one of the guys that can get on base pretty well, which they don't really have too much of. They've got a lot of big power hitters, which is fine, but you need guys on base if you want to hit multi-run home runs. But I think it's also on the pitching side, and I think it's in the bullpen, because like I said, I think that's always been the Phillies' biggest weakness, and I think that's still the case. And the guy in the bullpen that I think is the most important, I don't want to say the whole sorry, I thought someone was in my room. I don't want to say the whole entire bullpen, so I'm going to say David Robertson. I talked about him earlier. He's dealing with an injury that he got when celebrating a home run, so just old man syndrome there. But he was one of the big midseason acquisitions that they got, probably the biggest. He was really, really good with the Cubs in the first half of the season, and he was supposed to shore up that bullpen and make it so that they didn't have to rely so heavily on Seranthony Dominguez, which they've done throughout the postseason thus far. And Jose Alvarado is also really good, but you can't rely so heavily on just one guy. They're going to want to pitch Seranthony every game. And if they had somebody else who's as effective as Seranthony Dominguez, if David Robertson can be what he was in the first half of the season, and give them a two-headed monster, maybe even a three-headed monster if Alvarado continues to be really good, then they're really going to have a big chance, because they're going to need to close out the wins that they have. And we've seen how clutch the Astros can be on throughout that lineup. So it's going to be important that once they have a lead, that they're able to hold it down, and having 2 or 3 guys in the back of that bullpen that are able to shut things down is going to be key.
Yeah. I'm actually going to echo a lot of your points about Justin Verlander this time, but for the Phillies, I think the biggest key for them, outside of their bullpen not getting trashed, their starters need to remain as good as they've been. And I know the easy answer is Aaron Nola, but I think the second part of that dual-headed dragon, Zach Wheeler, he is honestly, if you look at his contract, he is one of the biggest free agent steals in the last 20 to 25, maybe even 30 years of baseball. Based on postseason WHIP in MLB history, a minimum 25 innings pitched, Zach Wheeler, where do you think he ranks?
Can you say that again?
So lowest postseason WHIP in Major League Baseball history with a minimum of 25 innings pitched in a singular postseason.
Am I guessing his WHIP or where he ranks?
Where do you think he lands on that list? Lowest WHIP.
I didn't even know he was that good. I mean, has he ever pitched in the postseason before this year?
This is just for this season. So,
oh damn!
By single season postseason WHIP with a minimum of 25 innings thrown, what do you think he lands on that list?
I mean, if you're saying that, he's got to be like 7th.
One.
The best.
Lowest postseason WHIP in Major League Baseball history.
That's crazy.
5.13 WHIP.
Wow.
0.513 WHIP in 2022 for Zach Wheeler. That ranks ahead of 519 by Christy Mathewson, 621 by Mike Messina, 630 by Stan Kovaleski, 641 by Kurt Schilling in 2001, and 646 by your guy, 2014, Madison Bumgarner. So he is full almost 2.5 points, or 1.5 points, lower on a WHIP in a single postseason is Zach Wheeler. Zach Wheeler is so good. He's just an excellent baseball player. And I think not just with Wheeler, with Nola, with Syndergaard, with Ranger, that rotation for Philly is going to have to steady the ship. That bullpen we know is shaky. Seranthony Dominguez's arm, they have run it into the ground. Alvarado, you never know what you're really going to get with him. I love him to death, and he's a pitching ninja god. It's really, really enjoyable to watch him throw baseball. But Robertson's struggling. I think if you can get some of your guys that are in your rotation, like Zach Wheeler, to steady the ship and just get it to the point where you're not going to need your pen that much when you have starts from him, and you can get him to save it a little bit. Zach Wheeler, I think he's going to be the biggest real need there. And if it's not Wheeler, it's going to be Nola. And if it's not Nola, it's going to be Syndergaard. Relying on that rotation to just keep them in games. Don't get blown up. And Zach Wheeler, he's the one that's going to really do it for them. He's just so good. I really can't believe the Mets just let him go. Probably would be in this position right now if it wasn't for it.
Yeah. So who do you think hits the longest home run in the World Series?
Kyle Schwarber. 732 feet.
That's the easy answer. The correct answer is Gene Segura.
Who commits the most errors in a single inning? It's probably Gene Segura.
Bro, that I forgot. I did want to mention that.
Yeah,
that stat was so funny. The first player in postseason history to get it, have an error, get a hit, and get picked off at first base in postseason history.
In the same inning.
So goofy. In the same inning. Yes. Forgot the qualifier.
I love that. He did all that in the 4th inning. What What a game. So shout
And
shout out to Dean Segura.
he had some really great fielding plays, especially in that game 3. He made a couple of diving stops at second base. He's I don't know. He's something else. He's also
player.
the same guy. Not just as a person, he's something else. He's just like, he gets so pumped and he does some goofy stuff. I can't tell if like his teammates like him. He's one of those guys that's like played for a bunch of teams, and you never know if that's just because he's like a good trade chip or because he's not a good clubhouse presence. I don't want to say anything more than that because I don't know anything about him, but it's hard to tell from that perspective. Also, he's the guy who hit his like 500th double or something and then asked for the ball and like took off his hat. I think he wanted to take the base too. And it was some like goofy milestone of doubles or something. One of the podcasts I listened to, Effectively Wild, one of the best podcasts, baseball podcasts out there, one of the best podcasts in general. They were clowning on him for so long, just like why is he doing this? And then just yeah, I'm gonna go out there, like get my 11th hit and be like, yes, I surpassed 10 hits. Please give me the baseball. Please give me everybody's jerseys on the field. Everybody strip. This is my 600th double. Yeah, just something goofy like that, which is really funny. I don't know. I don't know what's going on in his head. I don't know if he's like super self-centered or if he's just like goofy, but I don't know.
I like
that guy's funny. Yeah, so he's gonna hit a 800-foot home run. That's just gonna blow everyone's mind. His bat's gonna explode. It's gonna be crazy.
Furthermore, on my point about Zach Wheeler's utter dominance this postseason, out of the 72 hitters that Zach Wheeler has faced this postseason, how many do you think have reached base against Zach Wheeler?
How many hitters this postseason have reached base against Zach Wheeler?
Yes.
I know he threw a one-hitter one time.
He's faced 72 batters.
I'm going to say 8.
8.
Oh, let's go. Let's go.
8 hitters has successfully reached base against Zach Wheeler out of 72.
That's crazy.
He is just stupid good. And also, this is cool. This is from Jeremy Frank and MLB Random Stats, talking about the guys that we think are most important.
He's such a good follow on Twitter.
Yes, he is. If you're not following Jeremy Frank, please follow Jeremy Frank at MLB Random Stats on Twitter. He didn't pay us to say this. He's a cool guy.
That would be cool though.
He should.
If we got sponsored by like somebody on Twitter. Foolish Bailey, please.
Yeah.
Please sponsor us.
One of us. Okay, so top players in championship win probability added in a 2022 regular season and postseason. Here's your rundown. At 14.6% is Yordan Alvarez. At 13.9% is Bryce Harper. At 12.9% is Zach Wheeler. Pretty good bets right there. So top 3, bunch of guys we already talked about. Doesn't have Robertson on here. I almost said Daniel Robertson. That's not
that was
David
a
Robertson.
baseball player. That is a baseball player though.
It is a baseball player, just not the one we're talking about.
No, it's not.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I like our picks. I really do. I think you're completely right on David Robertson, and it was really nice to see him get to pitch in Game 5. He just struggled. He really sucked.
He'll get it together. He's got all week to get it together.
His first 5 batters, I think he threw 1 cutter. I think everything else that he threw was either a slider or a curveball. It was really wonky. Like he struck a guy out and he literally threw him 4 curveballs and a slider.
Well, yeah, stay away from the cutter, I guess.
I think it was Profar though, so that doesn't count.
Yeah, true. Do you watch It's Always Sunny?
Yes, I love It's Always Sunny. It's like my favorite TV show.
All right, so that's even more reason to root for the Phillies during this, just for our boy Mac.
Absolutely. So if you're a Phillies fan and the Phillies win the World Series, please don't get blasted on grain alcohol. Instead, you should listen to us bring in the closer.
Yeah, no, I mean, we should definitely be back before the World Series is over,
Absolutely.
Hopefully. Yeah, because they'll have the first 2 games and then a day off. So it'll be Friday, Saturday, day off Sunday. Maybe we'll get a podcast in on Sunday. We'll see. We'll definitely record in the middle of the World Series. So Look forward to that. We'll have some mid-series takes. But yeah, bring in the closer. Today we got another one. I forgot to write a little banner, so I'm going to do that really quick and talk while I do it. because we're bringing in the closer, and I like to not say their name more than once. So this way, people that tune in or forget who I said, and they won't forget. And here it is. Look at that. Production in the moment. All right. As you can see below me, the closer we are bringing in today to shut down this World Series podcast preview edition is Chad Cordero. Chad Cordero had a 7-year career from 2003 to 2010 with the Expos, Nationals, and Mariners. He was drafted by the Padres in the 26th round of the 2000 draft, but he didn't sign because he was then drafted by the Expos in the first round of the 2003 draft as a relief pitcher, which is pretty impressive. He debuted in August of 2003 at the ripe young age of 21 against the then Florida Marlins. He tossed a scoreless inning with no hits, 1 walk, and a strikeout. He was nicknamed the Chief. I have no idea why. Probably because it sounds cool. Chad the Chief Cordero. That does sound pretty cool, actually. So that makes sense now. But he was nicknamed Chief. He was also one of those guys that wore a flat bill hat, right? So he looked goofy out there is what that means. He pitched to a 1.64 ERA across 12 games in his rookie season and had a solid first full season in 2004, pitching to a 2.94 ERA with 14 saves. That was a pretty interesting season for him because he recorded the final save in Expos history and through the last pitch in the history of the franchise's home ballpark, Olympic Stadium. So he was doing a lot of lasts there. I think he also closed out the final win in Expos history too. So that's a pretty cool claim to fame. And then I guess that hyped him up because the next year he had the best season of his career. 2005, he pitched 74 and a third innings pitched with a 1.82 ERA, a 0.97 whip with 61 strikeouts and a major league leading 47 saves. He made his first and only All-Star appearance that year. He tied the major league record for saves in a month with 15 that ties Lee Smith and the guy who closed out our last podcast, John Wetland. So that's pretty cool. A little connectivity there. Chad Cordero broke the club record as well with 24 consecutive saves. He set the franchise single season saves record as well with those 47, finishing 5th in National League Cy Young Award voting and 14th in National League MVP voting. And he was also awarded the Raleigh Relief Man of the Year honors, which is a pretty successful season for a guy that was, let's see, if he was 21 and then he was 22 at 23 years old. What a season. So people probably thought, oh, this guy's going to be one of the best closers of all time if he's this young and he's doing that. And then he just started to fall off. It could be because he pitched in, I think it was the World Baseball Classic. He pitched for Team USA, which maybe, ruined an offseason or something and sort of set him on the wrong course. 2006, his ERA jumped like nearly a run and a half up to 3.19. He still locked down 29 saves. And in 2007, he was able to lock down 37 more with a 3.36 ERA. That year, he became the second youngest reliever in Major League history to reach 100 saves behind the guy who closed out our very first Bring in the Closer segment, Francisco Rodriguez, otherwise known as K-Rod. He also closed out, Chad Cordero also closed out the final game at RFK Stadium, which I don't even know what that stands for, but that was the former Nationals ballpark before they moved to whatever they're at now. I forget. It's like Nationals Stadium or something. I don't even know. I usually am pretty good at those. Thank you.
It's just called Nationals Park.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. And then in between those 3 seasons, 2005, 2006, and 2007, he had the second most saves in the National League, trailing only the legendary Hall of Famer Trevor Hoffman during that time. And then after the 2007 season, he had labrum surgery, and that sort of ruined the rest of his career. He missed the entirety of the 2008 season, almost the entirety. He pitched a little bit. Then he became a free agent after that year because the Nationals tried to send him down to AAA, and he said no. I think it was also partially because they did it in a way that he wasn't sort of happy with. So he ended up signing with the Mariners in 2009, but he didn't debut until 2010. So he was pitching in the minor leagues for them, recovering from the surgery, etc. He took the roster spot of the retired Ken Griffey Jr. I'm not super familiar with how Griffey retired, but he must have done it like mid-season or something.
He did. Have you ever heard that story?
I have not. Yeah, let's hear it.
Ken Griffey Jr. literally didn't tell anybody, hopped in his car and drove all the way across the country, and they had to figure out that he was retired when they just called him, and he was like, yeah, I'm done.
Oh, I did not know he did that.
He just
I thought it was like one of those things where like he did like an honorable, I'm going to like sign with the Mariners again and then retire mid-season. So like everybody knows, but no, it's exact opposite of that.
He was old and washed and had like a retirement tour for like a couple games. And he was like, you know what? I'm tired of baseball. And then he just left.
Dang. So
Which,
that,
he earned it. Congratulations.
Yeah,
but also
that opened a spot for Chad Cordero to get on the team. And then he was there for a little bit. And then he refused another minor league assignment and again became a free agent. And then he ultimately never appeared in the majors again. He threw his last pitch with the Mariners at the age of 28. So that was like a very, very short career for him. Like I said, 7 years, but he did not throw too many innings. He actually threw 330 innings in his career, came out to 7.3 Baseball Reference WAR with 298 strikeouts, a 2.89 ERA, a 1.21 WHIP, and 128 saves, which is good for 118th all-time on the career saves leaderboard. So that is Chad Cordero closing out our podcast. He had a really short peak, but it was really good. He led the majors in saves that 1 year. So it was pretty crazy. I remember him.
I don't remember him, actually. I don't even remember what he looks like. So he had a flat brim hat.
Yep.
Ugh.
Yep.
Not
it's fine.
ideal.
You know, some people look good in them. I do not. And yeah. So that's why my hats look like this.
That's strange.
Yeah,
Actually,
so
Chavez is the only one I think that actually looks cool with a flat brim.
Yeah, I mean there are non-baseball players that look cool in flat brim hats, but that's not usually the case for Major League Baseball players being out on the field. They're just like, oh yeah, I'm just out here chilling in my flat brim hats. Like, bro, you're a professional athlete.
Yeah, Fred Durst. Go out there and throw a baseball.
Yeah.
All right. Well, please join us next time on our 34th episode of Free Baseball. That will most likely happen at some point in the middle of the World Series going on, unless the Phillies sweep the Astros, which would be really sick. So make sure you check back with us. As always, my name is Dave Spurd. You can check me on Twitter at DVSBird. I post and repost a bunch of garbage. But if you want to hang out with me there, that's where you can find me. I also write and do stuff for the Athletes Hub, which you can also check out on Twitter at the Athletes Hub. Read all of our stuff. Got a bunch of cool stuff. That's where you can find this guy, Jake Crumpler. Number 1, he's on the Athletes Hub. Number 2, he's on Pitcher List, making awesome, cool stuff. And then 3, keep going, Jake.
Baseball HQ.
Baseball HQ.
Yeah.
That's one I forgot.
You also linked Athletes Hub on Twitter at the Athletes Hub. It's at Athletes Hub. So you've gone from you got the athleteshub.org down now, but now you got to get the Twitter down. So
I'm getting
fired. Got homework, Mr. Teacher.
Okay, guys, I will actually not see you on the next episode of Free Baseball because I'm getting fired. So it's Jake's show now. Yeah, it's just Jake's show now.
I'll bring my mom on or something.
That'd be dope. I'd watch that. But make sure you check out our socials. You can follow Jake Crumpler at Jake Crumpler. That's crazy. So yeah, please read all of his stuff. He makes cool baseball stuff. Check out all the other things on the Athletes Hub. Also got a bunch of cool soccer stuff, and especially a bunch of World Cup previews because the upcoming World Cup in November. So please check out all the stuff. Jonathan Fury makes great stuff over there for soccer. We got a bunch of NFL content. We'll always have baseball stuff. It's me and Jake, you know. Please just check out all of our stuff. Cool stuff. Obviously, we're a small outlet. Help us grow. But yeah, I mean, that's all we got for today. Please check in with us next time when we will eventually change this graphic that says Mondays at 4 because this is absolutely the opposite of Monday at 4. But yeah, that's all we got for today. Peace.